All right, hello, welcome to where are we again? We are the Family Values Podcast. My name's Joe Woods.
My name is Tom Hicks.
Right, okay, I'm guessing this is probably fucking ages down the line that you're hearing this. It's a bit slow getting stuff out at the moment. So, just for context, before we get into this is the 13th of December 2019. Last night was the general election.
Mm-hmm. It was a big night in British politics, as everyone is aware by now.
So, I mean, there's going to be pretty much one theme throughout today. Mm-hmm. We're just going to freestyle, as they said in the 90s, Rinse FM. Point being, let's just start this off. Tom, thoughts?
Well, it's, I think nobody, possibly apart from the diehard people in Conservative HQ, would have ever predicted this result. Even when he first called the election, even with all, particularly with the polls closing at certain points, but it's an absolute rout. There's no other word for it.
It's fucking insane. As we sit here on Tom's laptop, we have a current picture of constituencies as it stand. Obviously, it's colour-coded to each party, and in England at least, and even mostly in Wales, it's a sea of fucking blue.
It's absolutely a sea. It is crazy.
I mean, it looks like a bleach stain. It's ridiculous.
You just see pockets of... you can just see the cities, the urban centres.
You can literally spot what is the city by just little blots of red on the map of England. Yeah. So you can go, oh, look, Cambridge. Oh, look, Oxford. Oh, look, Coventry. Oh, look, Birmingham.
Yeah, it's the sort of northern...
the northern powerhouses, so to speak. You can see Manchester, Liverpool. Yeah. So in case no one was paying attention to this absolute landslide of a fucking victory by the Conservative Party last night, basically the Labour dam has burst in the northeast. We now have a joining hand of blue reaching from the North Sea to the Celtic Sea.
Yeah, the red wall has been smashed. Pick whatever metaphor you like. The result is still the same.
So, I mean, we're going to just basically go over here what everyone has already gone over the last 12 hours or so. Labour's lost its northern working class base. Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, everyone has predicted this since 2015.
Everyone has predicted that it was a strong possibility, but it was always the question of, will the people who have been voted Labour solidly for the last century hold their nose and vote for the Tory party and under Boris Johnson? The answer has been yes.
I'm going to give some thoughts here, right, which are... Yes, Brexit is a factor, and yes, Brexit is a factor, but I think there's another factor at play here, which is I do think the northeast of England and the traditional industrial union areas of northern England have become essentially less left wing, or not basically a no longer left wing.
Yeah.
And my thought to that being is, and the reason I think that may be is because, we are now 35, 40 years detached from the closing of the mines, from the miners' strikes.
This is always Thatcher's long game. She's going to close the mines, and then 50 years later, it'll just be a sea of blue.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a generation or two of working age people that have never worked in those sectors, in those unionised industrial sectors, well, why would they be of this kind of unionised hard left?
Yeah, and the biggest issue of the day, the biggest issue since World War II, really, has been the Brexit question, as it were, and they have been emphatically ignored by the Labour London-based party.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about the party that would have been the party of the North and of Wales and essentially the North and Wales.
Scotland at one point as well.
And Scotland at one point for the SNP, but 40 years ago, we're now talking about, literally, as we look at this map, it is the party that just represents cities.
Yeah, it's pretty much it at the moment, and I don't think they can really have any claim until...
I mean, even if you fucking look at Wales, what does that represent? This big, tiny fucking, minstrel blob of red at the bottom.
The old industrial South Wales.
It's South Wales, and it's Cardiff, and it's Swansea.
Yeah, and Newport as well.
And Newport, absolutely.
But apart from that, it is completely blue.
It's blue.
It's as I say, it reminds me quite a lot of looking at a map of 2016 in the American election, where if you just saw where you could just see little blots of blues which represented the urban centres, and then everything else was red.
I mean, I'm looking now. So basically, another bit of context: the Lib Dems they weren't wiped out, but they didn't gain. They technically gained 2 new seats, but it was offset by the fact they lost a few seats.
Yes.
So they went from 12 seats from the last election now down to 11 seats. They gained Zach Goldsmith's seat down in, was it Richmond?
Yes.
And to be fair, I already thought Richmond was Lib Dem. I was totally wrong about that then, but all that kind of Richmond Kingston area seems very Lib Dem-y to me.
It was in the 2017 one. It lost like by a few hundred votes.
Oh, right, okay.
So this one was a bit, because I think more people switched over because of it's a heavily Remain area, and Jo Swinson was the only place of the country where she was actually popular was in Lib Dem tiny pockets. Basically.
Yeah, and so basically, as I look at the map now, I'm looking at essentially the from London down to the Lizard Peninsula. They've lost. I think the Lib Dems really now only hold 2 places in the West Country, and that's Bath and Oxford. And I know Tom's sitting next to me and would fucking take umbrage with the fact I refer to Oxford as the West Country. Yeah. If you're west of Berkshire, to me, you are the West Country.
That's all right. Anywhere north of the what the gap is north to me.
Absolutely the same to me. Yeah, that's not going to offend me. Yeah. I've got no family outside the same 2 boroughs of London, so it doesn't offend me. Anyway, I really am the part of the metropolitan bubble. Yeah. I've got generations of family that are just not from anywhere outside 2 boroughs of London, away from older family from abroad and whatever.
Speaking of the Lib Dems, there another big, probably the biggest scalp of the night, as they're saying, is the leader herself.
So basically, Swinson. Her seat in Dumfries, not Dumfries. It's Dum something. Everything in Scotland is Dum something, Dumseas, and West Dunbarshire. What is it called? We're just plopping through the map. Dumbartonshire.
Yeah, Dumbartonshire. Right. Yeah.
So she's lost West Dumbartonshire to the SNP.
Yeah,
and which is it. I mean, we're going from what was Swinson standing at the podium a few weeks ago talking about a potential Lib Dem surge. Potentially, there's a good chance she'll be Prime Minister. She's lost a fucking seat. Yeah,
and she lost it to the SNP, and it looks like, looking at this, that it was taken directly from Lib Dem voters, the SNP, because it didn't go to Labour, who actually was even reduced in theirs.
And also, to be fair, it looks like the SNP took a tiny majority over.
Oh yeah, they only won by just over 100 votes, so it was tight.
But you hear about that a lot with Scotland, though. You hear, there was seats in the last election in 2017 that were won by 2 votes.
Wow.
I think that was Dumfries, if I'm correct. I think like an SNP. I think it was a SNP took from Lib Dem, and
it would make sense when you consider the sort of swings that have been over the last 4 elections, where the SNP were completely dominant, and then the Tories made a bit of a comeback in Scotland for a short-lived period of time, as we now know.
So another sort of interesting part of the night was I'm actually from what was probably one of the most watched marginals of the whole election, which was Chingford and Woodford Green. Absolute. This idea of a Labour surge there, which there has been a little bit of in numbers of a Labour surge there. I know members of local momentum parties, and not necessarily inching from Woodford Green, but they have been canvassing for the incumbent Labour candidate, Faisal Shaheen, who actually turns out didn't win the seat.
No.
They were absolutely... Labour were really not really complacent, they actually campaigned really well, but they really thought they were going to win this seat.
Well, she was a big Corbyn ally, wasn't she?
Massive.
This was one of the things that a lot of sort of moderate Labour activists were complaining about, is that a lot of the sort of efforts were being pumped into seats like this to try and gain from the Tories, and not at all.
Ultimately fouled.
Completely. We're looking at the results right now, and there's a couple of things that jump out at me, that despite all the despite the fact that it's a relatively evenly split Remain Leave area, they only gained basically 2%, 2 swings, 2 percentage swings, which is...
if you see, they lost a lot of their potential vote swing to the Lib Dems.
And this goes to something as well which needs to be done. If the Lib Dems had made a deal with Labour, similar to one that the Brexit Party had made with the Tories, it would be a very different story today.
Here's the funny thing. Yesterday, or maybe the day before, I naturally, my party's the Lib Dems. I'm not the massive. So the incumbent Lib Dem candidate was Jeff Seif. I'm not the biggest fan of him. Reason being, he's a fucking lunatic.
A lunatic Lib Dem. That's an interesting one.
A big part of the Lib Dem base is made up of lunatics. Weirdly enough, you'd think for a centrist liberal party, we're the sensible, we're the pragmatists. Lunatic. Jeff Seif. So Jeff Seif basically, again, very much kind of pro-business, capitalism. Fair enough. But with social conscience, fair enough. Ticks the box. But he, in this campaign, to be fair to Faiza Shaheen, who I've got some issues with her in regards to how she's dealt with the anti-Semitism claims, not particularly brilliantly. But I think, in all honesty, there was a massive smear campaign against her, which was overblown. Again, I didn't vote for her, but I do believe that was the case. I was bordering. When I say bordering, I meant I toyed with it for about a second or two every time I thought of it, and I went, nah, because I can't vote for the party led by Corbyn.
Yeah.
But I think, coming from Ching from Woodford Green, in the last few weeks, is actually, this election more to me is actually revolved more around fucking DC and IDS in Duncan Smith than actually it being a national election and trying to either keep Johnson out or keep Corbyn out. I think for a lot of people from Chingford and Woodford Green, it's been about trying to DC IDS more than anything.
But he's such a big scalp, and I'm just trying to think for myself. I didn't think there's not really a lot of big Tory. Well, I can't think of anyone on the front benches that actually lost their seat, which normally you get a couple of people that did it.
He's no longer on the sort of front benches. I mean, obviously Goldsmith, in a different era, Goldsmith would have seen it as a bigger scalp.
Yeah, he would have been, but I think he was.
He was kind of a black sheep of the party in recent years.
Yeah, he's a bit more because he never really got on the lead
Brexit train. I mean, he is a metropolitan elite, so to speak.
Yes, which with pretty much the metropolitan elite, Tory parties have either all defected or they're just losing everywhere because it just doesn't happen now. It's the only place where Labour actually managed to solidly hold their position and even gain was London, effectively.
Well, I mean, yeah, essentially, and obviously the smaller southern cities as well, Cambridge and how does Labour not have Oxford?
It's Lib Dem.
It's Lib Dem. That's really funny. I never knew. Did they gain that last night, or has that always been a Lib Dem seat?
I think they've held on to it, but I'll just confirm that.
It's interesting.
It keeps on going down to Plymouth Sutton Devon.
Oh yeah, they took that, didn't they? No, it was a Labour hold.
That's a Labour hold. I was looking at that because that is the constituency that my dad grew up in.
Yeah.
And that was the one that Anne Widdecombe was standing and got her ass
she got handed to her. Yes, I heard that this morning, and that was fucking. She got like 2,000 votes or something.
She got like 2,000 votes, and she lost to an openly gay man, which
that is justice deserved.
That's the sort of a thin. If you're a left-leaning sort of progressive person, then that is a thin silver lining of that sort of cosmic justice.
That is, I mean, we forget about it now. I mean, mainly because of our age, but like in the 80s, I mean, Widdecombe was an arse in regards to her kind of stubbornness in regards to social change. I mean, fuck me, she was a piece of shit. Oh, okay, there is a central
there's 2 seats in Oxford.
There's one seat in Oxford that is Labour, and that's Oxford East. Then you've got Oxford West, which is obviously Lib Dem, and there's a few other seats in the Oxford area that are all Conservative.
Yes, and you can see that the Lib Dem seat is a much bigger seat, so it's probably lessly densely populated.
Yeah, so like you can see the 2 central seats of Oxford are what they call the metropolitan parties. And then all the surrounding suburban areas are Conservative. And also, that's interesting to see a seat of Reading that is Labour. You know Reading a little bit.
Yes, Reading is it's got quite a bit of a metropolitan. It's quite multicultural in parts of Reading,
as it would.
It's got quite it's got quite a big Asian population. But the Wedding Rest is quite solidly Tory.
Blue,
and all the surrounding areas apart from Reading until you get to Slough is Tory now.
I mean, I do have some news to report as well. Update, we spoke about this a few months ago. Where would this go? Uncle Frank, as we thought, lost his seat.
Yeah, and we'll get that up now.
So Berkhamsted in Cheshire, as we said before, Frank Fields, the mastermind behind the UK minimum wage, old school heavy hit within the Labour Party. he defected from Labour before he was pushed in a deselection earlier this year because obviously he's quite an ardent Leaver. I forgot to check his vote share before I left the house earlier because I think his constituency came through quite late, so I wasn't able to check it this morning. Let's have a look.
Yeah.
I am mindful that this isn't great fucking audio listening. The fact we're just popping through charts and
this is just history in the making here. This is just recording.
Can we talk about this? Caroline Flint lost her seat.
Ah, yes.
And so all the Brexit heavy hitters of the north all lost their fucking seats. Dennis the Skin Man Skinner.
Oh, I can't believe he's gone. He's been there since, what, 1970?
50 years pretty much,
Absolutely
man.
crazy.
I mean, he's been a fixture my whole life at the Labour Party.
With him and Ken Clarke going, the average age of the House must have just dropped by a lot just because of those two.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of unfortunate Labour pretty much gained no seats because they had a load of incumbent, really young MPs.
Yes, and
Canada. Yeah.
So, just to go back to Mr. Field's constituency, he had 700 for an independent. It's not too bad, to be fair.
7,000 and second is not bad.
No, but the Labour man unfortunately got a £17,000 majority on 25,000. So the Berkshire Social Justice Party hasn't not had a long life. I doubt anyone will be standing up for that party at the next election.
I honestly don't think Fields is going to stand again. And in all honesty, I can't blame him. He's got to be knocking on 80 now. He's a relic, and
he just has no real place in any of the political parties anymore.
No, well, if anything, he belongs in. He belongs in current UKIP as it stands. He's pretty. You'd think, he may be a Brexiteer, but he's got to be socially liberal as an old member of the Labour Party. No. He's got to be economically left wing. No, he's a protectionist. He's a protectionist. He's a relatively Christian fundamentalist, and completely anti-gay marriage. Absolutely anti-immigration. What about him belonged in the Labour Party?
It's absolutely nuts. I think the only reason that he probably was around so long, because all the things that you've just listed off there are things that are actually quite aligned with the constituency that he was representing.
Yeah, because it's a northern constituency, which is socially conservative. Actually, someone could probably correct me on this because I've actually got some northern friends of the left who. They generally just know more about the northern left dynamics to me. I think Birkenhead might be a little bit more kind of, not liberal left wing, but kind of a bit more, I don't want to say traditional left wing, but a bit more kind of inclusive left wing.
Right.
A bit less socially conservative, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay.
I know he marginally voted Remain.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would have thought a man like Frank Wilt would have been in a
I think I'm right in saying Birkenhead is a kind of like... Birkenhead is to Liverpool what Hoboken is to New York. It sits across the river, and it's essentially like an old, cheaper but very urbanly dense area on the opposite side of the river to Liverpool. Okay. So it kind of takes in a lot of artistic sort of demographic and and young people, and I think it takes in a lot of people that want to live somewhere urban but cheaper.
Okay, that's interesting. It's I'll be curious to know who replaced him. It's Mr. Whiteley, but we going to
Mr. Whiteley?
Yeah, won't bother going too far into that, blokes.
Yeah, it's just going to be a it's going to be at this point. It's going to be a Corbyn Easter.
Yes, which is. This is interesting going into this now because we of course have the announcement today, and not unsurprisingly given the results, that Mr. Corbyn will not be with us for very long.
No,
he will be gone in the new year.
He come out pretty fucking quickly and said, "All right, sorry."
He basically gave you pretty much line for line what Theresa May said last summer, which was, "I will not be leading the party into the next election."
I wish she cried like she did.
For the country I love. That would have been the last gift
when she did the elephant. When she did the whole Elephant Man thing.
Yeah. Well, he couldn't have said, "Oh, the country I love," because no one would have fucking believed him. If he said that.
Well, no, I don't think he could say it without throwing up. So.
No, precisely.
But by that same token, going into the Labour issue, Labour really has a problem on their hands now.
They do.
Which is what fucking direction do they go in?
Yeah, and because they've got all these a lot more left-leaning MPs, ones that got elected, in particularly the safe seats. They're
Yes.
going to be a fixture of the Labour Party for a long time to
More
come.
importantly, the grassroots is now 3/4 hard left activists.
Yes, and I would suspect that one of the reasons that Corbyn is sticking around and not resigning immediately like others,
because he's got that backing from the grassroots.
He's got the backing from the grassroots, and he wants to make sure that he lays as many foundations as possible that his pick gets the next leadership.
I guarantee, and I've already spoken to a few of my Momentum friends, none of them believe Corbyn should be stepping down.
Really?
They're fucking delusional.
Wow, that is crazy.
They really don't. I mean, some Momentum friends of mine really believe that Corbyn shouldn't be stepping down.
That is a big surprise to me.
And I'm talking Momentum activists.
It's surprising and also scary because it just shows a lack of respect for the public's opinion on somebody. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at. I mean, Swinson didn't have a choice.
It's a disconnect with reality.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we know Momentum has a big issue with, is a disconnect from reality. But as a organisation within the Labour Party, I really think they're way too ideologically driven to accept that they may have to change tack on what type of politician they have lead the party next.
Yeah.
They're just going to go for another hard left leader.
It's going to be crazy, and I think in the new year
I
we're
wouldn't
going
be
to see.
surprised if they try and fucking push McDonnell.
Oh, I don't think he's got too much of the stink on him. He's got a little bit too much of the stink.
He's too close.
Yeah. But did you see his face when he was doing it? He literally looked like Anne Widdecombe was just flashed him. He looked so scared.
Oh, what an image. Fuck. No, I won't. Oh, fuck, man. But seriously, I think this is the biggest, away from where Brexit goes now, this is the biggest issue. It's not an issue, at least I suppose it's somewhat. Even I feel happier now. Weirdly, there's a relief feeling to this Conservative landslide in that, okay, we've got a way forward with Brexit now, and it probably means that hopefully, I was going to say France for a second, sounds a bit of a Freudian slip, that Johnson is just going to go ahead, he's going to hopefully fight for a softer Brexit.
Well, this is the thing that he doesn't have to rely on the ERG that much.
No, he doesn't.
And I would say this to any excited Brexiteers listening, that I'm going to have to dampen everyone's spirits a little bit.
You're not getting a no deal.
No, there's not going to be a no deal. And if anybody really thinks that we're going to be able to negotiate a trade deal in a matter of months with the EU, you're having an absolute laugh. He will extend it. He now has enough political capital that he can effectively extend it.
Do you mean he's going to extend our time within the EU, or do you mean he's going to extend the transitional period?
We're definitely going to, I believe, certainly we'll leave by the 31st.
Okay,
but we'll enter the withdrawal agreement. Parliament will approve that bill within a
no issue.
No newly elected Tory MP is going to vote against that.
If this result has brought anything is positive to me in any way, it's that.
Yeah. At least we're not going to finish Brexit for a long time, but we've started the process.
We've started a process that is now no longer hinging on, we're going to leave without a deal. It looks a bit more sensible.
Yes, and I think there is a bit more of a feeling throughout, apart from diehard Labour activists, really, or for most people in the country, a lot better than the 2017 referendum, because that just made everything a hell of a lot. 2017 election, which made everything a hell of a lot more messy.
As unhappy as I was to see just a full blue wipeout, it does give me now a little bit more comfort to know that I think no deal's off the table and it's going to be a relatively sensible Brexit. That may take a few years, but it's going to happen,
And just outside of Brexit as well, the sort of regular gears of government are just going to go so much more smoothly now.
I mean, we're going to go back to, I suppose, Cameron era liberalism.
That's the speeches. If you listen to what Boris has been saying now, he's very much been moving into the one nation. He's been embracing that much, a hell of a lot more than he was before he'd won this election and during the election campaign.
Because he had to win the votes of the kind of the jingoistic, I suppose, Brexity populist sort of rhetoric that that half of the country loves.
Yes, I think as well, him and also Mr. Cummings, who has to take a little bit of credit for this, his idea of having basically boiling down their entire election campaign to 3 words: get Brexit done. You are going to see that replicated all across the Western world.
I took the piss, and a lot of people did take the piss out of the Tory party in general, but particularly Johnson spurred by Cummings for being the party of slogans.
Yeah.
They never had any policies. They never gave any uplifting speech and briefing. Everything was slogans.
Yeah.
Get Brexit done. Clean your mum's muff. I took the piss the whole time, but I think I've now come to realise, oh fuck, it worked.
Yeah, it really does work. I think you're going to see this a hell of a lot, particularly when it comes to the 2020 election. I think you're going to see this strategy effectively replicated by the Trump campaign across the next year, because they're going to think, well, we just have to keep America great. Something like that.
Keep America great.
Something like that. And they'll just hammer that. Don't give it to the Democrats. They'll demonise the Democrats, so they really want someone like Warren or Bernie to get in. But as I say, we won't go too far into that at the moment.
If there's anything the Republican Congress has to learn from this election, it's if you are the centre-right government, who you want as your opposition.
Yeah.
So to mirror that, they want Bernie as their opposition.
They want Bernie as their opposition. They want as much attention to be put on the squad with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Even Elizabeth Warren would be so much easier.
Which, by the way, I mean, Sanders and the quote-unquote squad are not necessarily hand in hand.
No, but Bernie's, I would say, a lot more sensible. He's a lot more less on the sort of social justice bandwagon.
Well, yeah, he's more the American equivalent of what we'd call the old school Northern Labour socialists. So he's not even as socialist economically as they are.
No,
but he's more in that school of, again, your Dennis the Skin Man Skinners,
yes.
and even your old. Oh shit! Who else? I mean, obviously, your Frank Fields and
he's always been an independently minded person, both in his when he ran as an independent, and the fact that he'll say that he gets a D rating from the NRA, but most of the Democrats get an F. So he's actually a lot more softer on the gun issue than a lot of people, which is what Hillary Clinton hammered him with. in 2016.
So he's got that kind of socially conservative element to him.
Getting elected
slightly looming.
Yes.
Like I said, a lot of the kind of old Northern Labour guys do.
He's been elected in Vermont for donkey's years now. So,
I mean, rural Vermont,
exactly.
As much as we think of New England as being this kind of very liberal place, I mean, rural New England, I mean, is as gun-toting and as, whatever else as any part of the South.
Yeah, I would compare it to sort of the areas between sort of Cambridge and Oxford, that sort of area.
What, you mean the dead zone?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hang on, you mean Bedfordshire?
Yeah. that area.
Actually, to be fair, I'd agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Bedfordshire, the dead zone. I mean, come on, if you've been to any of the major towns of Bedfordshire are Bedford and Luton. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, point being, going back on track.
One thing we need to hop on, I think, as well, need to comment on is the future of our partner in the union, because that is now also the questions must have to the big one.
Scotland, the big partner.
Yes,
not the wee one with the guns.
No, the big one with the guns.
You mean the big one that is actually financially important to us?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting now, because if the Tories have been, understandably so, banning the Democratic mandate drum for Brexit for the last 2 years, and now they have a Democratic mandate themselves, what the hell did the SNP just get?
Literally on the way here, I was sitting on the bus just reading the live updates on the phone call that Johnson had just had with Sturgeon, and he phoned her to say, you're not getting a second referendum, do one. So, and essentially she tried on the phone to say, well, you got your Democratic mandate, I've got mine.
Yeah.
Which means nothing, because I actually do believe that Johnson won't fold on that.
No, I don't think he will as well. I think he's almost legitimate in saying that, look, it's only been 5 years since we had the last one. We're going through a massive constitutional change as it is. Why don't you at least wait until we see what kind of Brexit deal we get? What
pressure could Holyrood put on Johnson? Nothing, really. What are they going to do? Oil embargo? Yeah. I mean, it makes no sense.
He doesn't need them to win elections.
No.
So he has no. He's like way.
They're not natural bedfellows.
Exactly. So I don't think that's going to budge. And the argument of one constitutional crisis at a time is, I think, quite a strong one to most people, even a lot of Scots, who would say. And if you look at the polls at the moment, there's not even a majority of people in Scotland who want a referendum, let alone would actually vote leave now. It goes up and down, but there's not been a solid. There's
not been a solid movement either way.
Yes.
To really suggest that things have changed.
No.
You know, mostly people in Scotland, particularly outside the major cities, particularly outside Edinburgh and Glasgow, they don't care. They don't mind being part of the union. A lot of people prosper off of it.
Well, that's it. I think a lot of people see, particularly the sort of more economically minded people. I mean, you just have to look at the deficit that the Scottish government have, which is massive compared to the deficit of the UK. Obviously not in overall terms.
So they look at their deficit and what they would technically owe to both the IMF and the British state, but they know that the Barnett formula is just way too generous and way too in their favour to go, all right, fuck this. Yeah. We're on our own. We're in charge of our own money.
Yeah, which I mean, the thing is annoying as an Englishman. I know exactly what would happen with that if there was an economic crisis. It's the same thing that we did when Ireland had an economic crisis. We end up bailing them out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so you'd never get away from Daddy England, really.
Actually, isn't. So talking about one breakaway nation to another, so Northern Ireland. So I think as we said earlier, we had a little bit of a nationalist sweep in Northern Ireland. You had some traditionally Ulster sort of unionist seats taken in, not just in northern Belfast, but in northern constituencies of Ulster, which are traditionally, I mean, coastal areas, the north coast of Ulster is traditionally fucking really. It's really fucking unionist.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sort of like being closer to Scotland geographically.
There's only one thing that suggests to me why this has happened is Brexit.
I think that is a major contributing factor, although I would be very curious to see, and I don't know how much poll data is done on this regularly, about the changing demographics, because it's always been a thing in the background.
There's always this kind of talk from the nationalist kind of... I mean, it's kind of the nationalist side of things always talk about... They bolster up this idea of Catholics now outbreed Unionists or outbreed Protestants, but
speaking as a man who was raised a Catholic, I believe that.
Absolutely, but I don't actually believe it's enough to be that different.
It's such a slow burner that seeing the change in one, you would never see a change in one election.
That's why I don't get it. That's why I don't believe it's all of a sudden it's the Catholic birth rate catching up, because the last election we didn't see this.
No.
Only 2 years ago.
I think tactical voting has been a big thing as well, particularly in Northern Ireland, because there's so many parties and none of them actually...
do you know what? I think it's too issue. I think it's Brexit. I think the reality was because you're talking about a population that voted 60% Remain, and it now seems to be that the Unionists have about 60%. When you now add together the current status of both the SDLP and the Sinn Féin, they now have about 60% of Parliament after last night.
That is interesting.
So I think that's why, to me, it reflects Brexit.
I would probably say that you're right about that. I mean, the actual practical changes for the British Parliament is actually that kind of, even though it's just one seat, or a couple of seats if you count the loss as well, it might actually help them get the Brexit deal through and get things through, because Sinn Féin
and the SDLP have no involvement in British Parliament in Westminster, so it kind of helps the mainland.
Yeah. Particularly if you're, I'm not a fan of those types of policies.
I think Stormont's also got to play a role in this, in the sense that
Stormont has to get its fucking act.
But that's what I mean. Ridiculous. I think Stormont is part of the issue. I think you probably now have a load of unionists that now think, okay, can we just switch sides so we can get just one side, one sectarian side in, basically in control in Northern Ireland, just so we can have Stormont running again. Because if you've got one side that isn't blockaded,
it's interesting. I see what you're saying, but that would be the Northern Ireland Assembly, and because of the Good Friday Agreement, they have that
they have the power sharing agreement.
Exactly. So they have to have full agreements across the communities to bring it back.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
that's
always
why currently it's not sitting, because they can't agree with each other.
No, but I would imagine that. I mean, this is the thing that I imagine is a real big headache in Tory HQ, because they can only do the bare minimum as home rule there, because any influence on any big decisions is just going to be seen as the Tories imposing their will.
For all intensive purposes, the DUP is actually just effectively the Northern Irish arm of the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
Because obviously the other unionist parties tend to be the more traditional, long-standing and more extreme unionist parties. The actual DUP, as much as we give them shit about being they're backward dinosaurs, they're witch burners, they're gay bashers. They're actually just the UK arm of they're just the Northern Irish arm of the Conservative Party, essentially.
I mean, that's why they've been a lot more popular in the recent decades, because they realise, well, if we get with DUP rather than the old Ulster Unionists to work,
UVF arms,
they'll actually work more together with the Tory Party, and at least half the time they'll be able to probably get more deals done to benefit Northern Ireland as a whole.
Yeah, and which has worked in their favour.
Yeah,
for a place that to the UK really means nothing in returns of economic gains, and we literally, I think, we hold on to it for the protection of half of the.
Yeah, I mean,
to protect one half from the other.
I mean, you know me, I'm a self-determination guy. So if Northern Ireland, the majority of Northern Ireland want to be British, then they're damn British. Just as if as soon as they want to be Irish, then they should be Irish.
Or well, the reality is if that was to happen, they wouldn't actually end up being Irish. They'd end up being an independent country because the Republic doesn't. The government of the Republic doesn't want them. The Irish population's culture is absolutely tied up in the idea of United Ireland.
Yes, so you saw that on Twitter last night.
Yes.
It was United Ireland was trending on Twitter.
But the government doesn't want it.
No.
The Republic's government doesn't want it. It's too much of a financial and security burden.
Yeah, and obviously they can't ever outwardly say, even if there are some elements of the government that do want it, they would never come out outwardly say it.
They can never,
because they would ruin their relationship with the Westminster.
In the Republic, it would ruin for who's the fucking ruling party in Ireland? Liv Racker's party. I can't remember their fucking name.
They've got all Gaelic names, so I can't remember them.
Essentially, they will never talk about Northern Ireland in any way, just because they don't want to. They don't want to piss off the population by saying, "Hey, we're never going to take them because this is why." So they don't mention them at all.
No,
it's literally just part of the population's culture. It's in their minds and hearts that they're going to have a United Ireland one day. Which to me, I don't even understand. Why the fuck do you want it? In the sense that you're gonna half of the population there are gonna hate you. For doing so.
It's a sort of romanticised idea about it. I mean, it's very strange. I mean, I mean, you probably know a bit better than me of this, but is it similar to the sort of situation with Romania and Moldova?
Kind of. No, well, it's a little bit more clear-cut with Moldova and Romania in the sense that most of the population of Moldova is Romanian-speaking.
Yeah.
But where 20 years ago, it was more likely the Moldovans were in favour of the Romanian-Moldovan unification because it meant that essentially Moldova become part of a somewhat richer country. The idea of thinking Romania as a richer country is hilarious, but to Moldova is a lot richer. It made sense, but now where most Moldovans are particularly if you are a Romanian speaker, because the majority of Moldova are Romanian speaking, they're entitled to Romanian passports, hence EU passports. So now the idea and interest in a united Moldova-Romania in Moldova has fallen off, but in Romania it's still a very big nationalist thing.
Yeah, whereas the Romanians actually want it more than the Moldovans
now.
Yeah,
and it's not that the Moldovans are completely against it.
Yeah,
they just don't care anymore because their kids have got passports to go to Italy and the UK and Spain.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So they don't. So I mean, it's a bit different to Northern Ireland situation. Yeah, there's an armed conflict, but the armed conflict is literally concentrated in about 100 miles of land, just separated from the rest of the country by a long river called the Dniester.
Right. Okay.
So basically, it's a bunch of land that borders Ukraine. Everyone there is mostly ethnically Russian and Ukrainian.
Yeah.
It's been broken off from Moldova for over 25 years, 30 years.
So it's not exactly the same, but there's kind of parallels there in certain regards.
There's parallels, but it's a bit different.
Yeah.
But that place as in Transnistria, it does keep Moldova from moving forward as a Transnistria keeps it in this shitty geopolitical position between the EU and Russia, or by proxy the EU, because between Romania and Russia in regards to who vies for it.
Right.
And the reality is, if Moldova just gets rid of Transnistria, just says, all right, you can have independence, whether Russia takes it or not. And look, I'm not a big fan of Russia encroaching on areas outside its territory. But I think it's probably in Moldova's interest just saying, all right, goodbye, Transnistria, we can move on with developing as a country in the West.
Well, it's one of those things. Did you just end up having a referendum on that, or would that just open up so many wounds? Because a referendum on Northern Ireland would open up too many wounds.
They keep trying to organise referendums in Moldova. Mainly, they've tried being administrated by the Romanian government. So a big activist for the Moldova Romania unification the referendum is actually one of the ex-Romanian prime ministers. And he's now a member. He's now part of the political scene in Moldova. I can't remember his fucking name now. He's pre-Victor Ponta, but I can't remember his name. But a lot of people apparently really do hate him there because they really don't care about it anymore in Moldova. They're like,
right,
fuck you. We only cared about joining you guys because we needed jobs and our kids needed jobs in Bucharest. Now they can fuck Bucharest off and go to Milan, so, you know, we don't care.
That is funny, and it's basically a backdoor EU membership, at least with food.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Funny enough, a lot of people, a lot of the quote unquote Romanians who live in my road are Moldovans. They've all got Moldovan license plates. Nice enough. They're all cool, but they're all they're Moldovans.
Okay. So, do we have anything more to say on the election? Final thoughts.
I think we're only going to be able to either retread on what we've already said, or retread on what's already can be said countless of times over and over again on the news today. How about yourself?
No, I think you're right about that. It's just now it's a wait and see what will the cabinet look like and how quickly will Corbyn go.
I think personally it's still early days. It's not even 24 hours yet since the results started coming through. I think the next couple of days are going to be pretty exciting. I mean, this is the most important and most exciting election of probably my lifetime so far.
It's definitely the most decisive election since the Tony Blair years.
It's just where the most has happened. So let's see what happens over the next few days. I mean, you could see some real interesting revelations. A lot of people, I imagine, are going to resign.
Yeah, I love watching videos of moderate Labour people say what they really think because they are just letting it out now. It's brilliant. Where's Sterling, who was duly elected in my constituency,
last night. Oh my god, her video. You know, which goes, "We now the racist party. We are now the racist party."
Wow, that's not something you want to say that.
Just before we sign off as well, a little while before I headed out to come over to Tom's, Len McCluskey has basically given a speech where he's now turned on Labour, and essentially he's referred to, he said Corbyn is a metropolitan elite who cannot connect with the North.
Et tu, Brute.
Yes. he basically he did not deal with the issues of anti-Semitism well, which is interesting coming from McCluskey because since he just essentially shouted anyone down in until now who did accuse the Corbynite sort of realm of anti-Semitism, and he's basically then referred to all the moderates as essentially spineless.
So the moderates are spineless, and the hard left are anti-Semites.
Anti-Semites disconnected from. He accused the whole party, both the left and the moderates, of being completely out of touch with the working class.
Well, considering how influential he's been in that party over the last 4 years, he should really look himself in the mirror.
I think he's trying to. I've said this before we started recording. I think he's trying to mask his colours somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to leave Labour and trying to take over a new party.
I think for Jeremy Corbyn's sort of heart, that one probably hurts the most, being abandoned by the unions, because in his heart he still thinks himself as a representative of those types of people.
Can you think of could you imagine, any time before Brexit, where the unions have turned on all elements of the Labour Party?
No, I don't think it's. I mean, they were very critical during the Blair years, but they never left them.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Right, I think we're going to sign off. There's nothing really else to say, so I can't predict anything that's going to happen between now and next week.
No, the only thing that I will predict is that there will be cabinet appointments. Most of them the big jobs will stay the same, I think.
Yeah. Most of the cabinet members have literally just, entered the role, 2-3 months ago?
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if he'll try and push through the withdrawal bill before Christmas, or he might try and squeeze it out a little bit. But it doesn't really matter because it's going to get passed.
Yeah, when is Parliament recalled? Do you know what date?
I think they said they wanted the Queen's speech at some time next week, so I doubt there's going to be enough time to put all the legislation
there's no
through.
time between that and Christmas, so no, fuck that, that's not going to happen.
No, thinking about it.
It'll be early January.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter because it will get passed eventually before the 31st.
Okay, let's sign off. Right, see you later.
See ya.